Hello and welcome to my channel. This is going to be my first ever version of any type of video on YouTube. My name is Curtis and I'm going to be playing Kerbal Space Program for you guys. This is version 0.23, which introduces the Science Lab and Tweakables. Besides the enhanced nav ball, I don't have anything else going on here because I didn't want to destroy my system with, broken code. Every time there's an update, you got to go and get all the other updates, and so this is pretty much a vanilla game. So what's going on here is I've loaded up a save file. I've just finished with the first 2 or 3 tiers of science, going up into the atmosphere and coming back down, basically just getting the 25 or 30 science that you need to actually start doing something. And I wanted to get to the moon. Now, I'm not Scott Manley or Thor or any of the other guys that produce these crazy, fantastic videos. I'm actually pretty horrible at this game. And especially in terms of landing. In fact, besides sandbox mode, I don't think I've ever actually landed on the moon successfully and been able to get science and leave. I have been able to get on Mimus, but I mean, anybody could do that. And I don't think I've ever even actually been out of the system except for a couple unmanned probes, and that's because I had installed tech, and when I actually sent Jebediah out there, he died pretty sad and alone. So anyways, just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on here, I am in the middle of trying to land, and I'm in the middle of a maneuver at the moment, because I realized that I'm on the dark side of the moon, and instead of, time accelerating myself until I was able to get to something a little lighter, I really just wanted to land. So I kind of moved myself around, and I know that I don't have enough fuel to actually leave the planet, so what I wanted to do was I wanted to try and land on the engine of that huge, 3 or 4 tank engine, to kind of slow my descent down enough that I can just land the lander without having to use any fuel whatsoever. And the first attempt, as you'll notice, is not exactly the most fantastic, but I'll let you watch. I'm going to go ahead and time accelerate because some of this stuff is probably boring to any of you standard viewers who are just kind of watching me move back and forth and act like a complete retard. So basically what I do here is I just I'm trying to land the thing and, explode the bottom tank, have the gear already out, and, hope to God that I have all the fuel that I need, the one tank that I have left on my lander, to try and get, out of here. And I wanted to do this at 16 times acceleration, but that's just entirely too glitchy, so you get to listen to me go through the 4 times. So what just happened there was I went back to my save file. I want to try and do this again. I'm really adamant about trying to get this done, and so I'm kind of just fooling around with the different speeds. The second time, first time, second time, Jebediah dies, so we're on clone number 3. I said screw it with the whole, try and get to the lighter side of the moon. I just want to land. So this time, I just take the approach like I normally would. Everything's going as planned, and I'm hoping to God that this time it works. So I pull out the legs, I flare the engine, trying to cut as much speed as I can, because as you can see I'm going hundreds of meters. So then I'm getting closer, I still don't see a shadow, but I decide screw it, and eureka! I got on. And the amount of joy that I had was just absolutely astronomical until I realized, hey, wait a second, I'm laying down. So I rotate around, spam the science that I can, try up, but it's not working. So I get what I can, and then I figure, you know, I might as well go ahead and get the samples and plant the flag and whatever. So I go ahead and get Jebediah out and have him kind of run around, and I'm sure he's happy, thinking, "Oh, yay, I'm the first person on the moon, and why the heck am I speaking in a Scottish accent?" But as you can tell, he's grinning like a Cheshire cat. So, you know, the first thing I always do is I plant the flag. Of course, I think I completely forget, you know, doing the other stuff half the time. But, you know, as long as I have a flag there, I can say that I've been there. So, you know, if you watch the epitaph there, you know, all of Kerbal kind is going to be excited. But as you can see, Jebediah realizes he might not be getting back home, and that's kind of sad. But you know what? He likes the moon. He likes being there. So he's okay with it. So he picks up some stuff and does a little bit of science. And unfortunately, again, I forget that I don't have a antenna on the back of my head. But I wanted to get a nice grin again before I try my best to get off of the moon. This is that stuff that I find that I do a lot. I was going to try and walk under time acceleration. Sometimes you can do that, and sometimes you can't. So maybe with 0.23 they stopped that, but I kind of wanted to do a speed walk with them, and it didn't work. So I'm going to get him back into the capsule and going to try and lift back off again, in hopes that Jebediah can get back home. So well, it doesn't end up working out so well, but you know, I don't even know what I'm doing here. Oh yeah, I'm fixing the leg. Yeah, because the leg's jammed, and it never said that it actually fixed it, but so that's why I was double clicking. But anyways, so I have him land back in. I'm just going to try and fiddle around and try and get back up. And as you can see, it's, you know, I might as well be drooling while I'm doing it, because I don't seem to know what the hell I'm doing. Which you would think, after as many times as I've landed sideways on the moon, I would be a complete expert at righting myself back up. But, you know, it's not the case. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and accelerate, because this actually gets kind of sad. So, I'm back at the VAB and SDH, I think. I can't remember. And I've decided I'm going to go ahead and send a Bill Kerman to try and rescue Jebediah, because I just cut out like 6 minutes of myself rotating. I wanted to show you guys the science that I had, so you can kind of get an idea of where I was coming from. And you can tell that I actually have a little bit of nice stuff here. But as you will realize, I am not completely the smartest person in the world. And so when I go to finally build something, it's not up to snuff. So I kind of wanted to start off with a cockpit that I hardly ever use, and I kind of wanted to go with a whole space plane perspective. I have never, ever made a good space plane in this game. Bar none, worst contraptions on the face of the planet. So I originally wanted to try and go with the space plane. I got the capsule because I would need something for Jebediah to come in and since there's nothing that's two-seater, I knew that I would need something else. But I was going to fly everything with the cool-looking cockpit. So I don't understand why I flipped that thing around, but as I said in the beginning of the video, I am not the most fantastic builder or flyer of anything in this game. So hilarity usually ensues. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to the launch, because this is, you know, kind of tedious. So, wonder of all wonders, here is my new beautiful plane. It's got a couple of solid boosters. We got 2 sets. I don't know why the hell I went with the way I went, but you can see the whole space plane idea and the fact that I've got 2 different types of fins, because I don't actually have any wings. So God knows what the hell I was thinking when I decided I really wanted fins. Also, the rotation, it cuts out after a few seconds. They're just like that. And so something that you may notice as you're looking at it is that the engineers in the Kerbal Space Program decided not to put parachutes on this particular space vessel. Bill, unfortunately, is not aware of that until a little bit higher up. So, you know, he figures, you know, he can do what any hot-blooded Kerbal would do and save their compatriots. First stage goes off, second stage goes off. It's, you know, pretty normal stuff. You know, I do have to say the ship looks kind of cool. It's gonna kill them, but you know, there could be worse ways to die. I can't think of any off the top of my head. Maybe, I don't know, boiling alive in the sun, possibly. But you know, knowing that you're going to die and still going up to try and save your friend, it's very commendable. So anyways, something you also might notice is that you know, I'm only at 9,000 meters up, or yeah, and I'm down to my last stage. And that stage is only a few gas tanks, so there's not even a chance that I'm going to even make it into orbit. So not only do I not have any parachutes on the thing, but I don't even have enough power to get it outside of the sphere of influence of Kerbin. So I figure, you know, I might as well take a look around and enjoy my settings when I realize that I'm going to be killing Bill on complete accident. And you know, I figure after those first 3 restarts with Jebediah, I'm just going to go ahead and do what I have to do, and make it as realistic as possible. Sadly, you know, I don't have deadly re-entry, so I can't blame it on that. I don't have Ferrum Aerospace, so I can't blame my aerodynamics on that. It's just good old-fashioned lack of planning. And I do believe that is kind of the Kerbal way of doing things, don't you? So I look at my my apoapsis, hoping that I was higher than I really was, and I wasn't, of course. But you know, here's hoping. I take a look at my fuel, and I realize this isn't going to happen. So I try and devise something that will kind of help Bill out and maybe try and salvage his life. So how do you take a flying brick that really has no glide ability, and I don't have a way to drop that stage because I wasn't thinking that I might need to do some sort of emergency anything. So yeah, flying brick, careening into space. Is Bill gonna live? Am I going to actually be a better player than I've ever played as in my life? Probably not, but we'll know soon enough. So now here we are, fast forwarded it a little bit. I've been able to kind of get into orbit. I hit the magical 100,000 mark, so I kind of decided, let's see where this goes. You know, maybe I have enough fuel to get to the moon. As you can see, I don't actually have a catch with the moon. I don't know. I don't remember those fancy words. But soon enough, you notice that I run out of fuel. I was going to try and make it, and that didn't end up working, so I decided I was going to try and land. I have just a little bit of fuel left. If you notice, I could have went with the 40,000 meter air brake, but I'm not smart. and I wanted to try and get this done. So I used what little bit of fuel I had left to try and slow down my trajectory just a smidge. Thank God again the deadly reentry isn't on there, because as you can see right now, I am lighting like a Christmas tree. So I kind of rock myself back and forth. It's not really anything except for trying to slow the speed down. I'm hoping that the surface of the rocket is enough that I can slow everything down, and hopefully, you know, I don't know. I decided I was going to try and land in water, and I know that water destroys just about everything, but you know, but miracles can happen, and this is Christmas, right, guys? So can't we just ask Santa to help us out? And not to mention, my little seesaw maneuver seemed to be bleeding off speed quite well. So I figured, maybe it'll work. I decided I'd fire a little bit of what fuel I had left, and I know it wasn't exactly in the right spot, but it helped with things, and I was actually starting to kind of look up. Like the Soyuz 23, it was originally a 1976 Soviet manned spaceflight that ended up having some stuff go wrong, connection to the space station. Anyways, the crew returns to Earth, and they ended up landing on a lake. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was the very first splashdown in Soviet space history. Um, Anyways, after they landed on the lake, it actually broke through the ice, and it took a recovery crew 9 hours to get them out of the water. So, I don't think Bill has this same hope, but we'll know in just a second. He's probably thinking to himself right now, geez, that water does not look inviting. And it doesn't, and Bill dies. So, Operation Mooner Rescue did not go quite as well as it had planned. So, back to the drawing board, I decided to go back to the ship that I had originally used, which was the Mooner Express is what I called it. And I figured I would retrofit it a little bit, so that I'd have a little more fuel. I don't really need the science so much. I'm just there to rescue Jebediah. So first thing I do is I go ahead and I take off those small solid boosters, and I decide I always want bigger, because bigger's better, right? Yeah, it always is. But before I do that, I decide I'm going to kind of strip some of this stuff off. And so I decided I wanted to keep the engine, but I knew I wasn't going to use that gas tank because we've already found out that amount of gas is not near enough. Add a second capsule because we still need to get Jebediah off the moon. And since I decided not to take any parachutes last time, I'm going to double up on the amount of parachutes. It's better to be safe than sorry. I mean, Bill can tell you that. So I had the parachutes and legs again, because if you're gonna go on the moon, you're gonna need to land, right? And I had some batteries because part that I cut out was me rotating back and forth for 6 minutes. I realized that I would need power if I ended up being in that same position. So I put on some batteries this time so that I could get a few more minutes of rotation out of everything. So I attached the tank, and I take another once over, stack on the other solid boosters, because I figure, you know what, I'm gonna need them, and I'll go ahead and get us to the launch pad and see what happens. So I cut out another 2 minutes of just maneuvering and stuff, and as you can see now, you can see the flag and the pod that Jebediah's at, and what I'm doing is I'm kind of burning off to the side, because even though I maneuvered what I did, I'm still coming at it at an angle, and then I just realize that there is no way I'm going to be able to make that without completely screwing around. And I mean, better players are probably able to do that, but just not me. I can't. So I go ahead and ditch the last of my fuel. I only have the lander can now. Sorry, lander tank that I put on. I don't have a lander can. Sorry for the confusion. And I'm kind of worried about the fuel that I'm using, because I already know that didn't have enough in the other tank and the other pod, and so I'm trying to conserve what I can. But as you can see, I'm already around a half a tank of fuel, and it's just not going well for me. So I know it's the dark side of the moon, and again, I probably could have waited until daylight to land, but you know, what's fun if there's not a little difficulty? But I land, and I land on my side. So you guys will see a reoccurring theme here. I might as well just make space planes, and you know, that function. So I kind of do a little bit of spinning around and hope to God that it works. And I kind of think to myself, you know what, after a few minutes of rolling around and pushing out legs and whatnot, that I was going to wait for the sun. So I speed up, and I kind of do a little break dance, and it looks like it might work. You know, either that or else it looked like somebody who's drooling again, which I do on most occasions. So as luck would have it, after this maneuver, I'm finally able to pop up. I'm so happy. It takes a few seconds, but I get out, and Bob is enjoying himself. I figure I might as well grab a little bit of science. I'm sure they're probably in the same biome, but I had forgotten where Jebediah was. Also, I was confused because I now had all my electrical charge back on Jebediah, and I was wondering, you know, what the hell was going on. But I went ahead and I took the experiments, and I decided to fly over there. And you know, Jebediah is really good with a jetpack, as you can see. He's probably enjoying himself. I didn't really zoom in too much because I kind of worried about where I was going. Now, I've done a jetpack once where I was speeding along and ended up going a little too fast, and ended up killing the Kerbal. So as you see right here, I go too fast again, but this time I decide that I'm going to err on the side of caution and try and make my way back. So it takes a little bit of maneuvering, and I finally get him back there. I'm sure he's extremely happy to see old, what was it, Bob? God, I already forgot who I'd brought with me. It is one of them. So he goes, he says hi, and they grin at each other, and he goes and gets in his capsule and saves all his stuff. I go ahead and switch back to the other guy, and I decide to plant a flag. And you know, it's for our fallen heroes. You know, I now know that I will make it back home, and so I leave the memorial. I get in the ship and do, you know, what little science I have left, and then go ahead and take off. So I take off from the moon, start heading back, and realize, hey, look at my fuel. Shock of all shocks, I'm not leaving the moon. and I have no way to get back. Also, I never repaired my leg, so I do what I can by posturing myself that my legs will take the brunt in hopes that I can tumble out of it, but no can do. And yet they died. So that's it for me. I hope you guys had a great time, and hopefully I'll see you next my next video. Goodbye.